Hey free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. Today, I want to start a series discussing maybe all of the different characters in the game and where they are good at, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and just explore a little bit more about each of these characters because I did realize that there are actually a bunch of hidden mechanics in this game that is not really very well explained, and especially so for Eternity, who is going to be the main character for today's first episode of this series. Okay, so we are taking a look at Eternity. She is a 6-star character who does not have her own banner aside from the beginner's banner, so you're either granted Eternity or 2 other characters. It's completely random. So I lucked out and I got Eternity, and I think a lot of players are trying to gun for her as well. And the reason for that is because of her insane DPS and her sustain as well. So let's talk about her. Now let's start off with her first skill. This is a debuffing skill. So Vigor Handbag attacks one target. The caster suffers current HP minus 10% and deals 200% reality damage. Inflicts 1 round of nasty wound on the target afterwards. Now the caster suffers current HP minus 10%. This scales according to whatever HP you're at right now. So if you're at full HP, you're going to receive 10% of your max HP. If you're at 50% HP, you're only going to receive 5% of your max HP. And as you combine these skill cards together to level 2, level 3, all that's really changing is just the damage output that she's pushing, which means that this skill is pretty much great from the get-go. You kind of only need this to be at 1 star, and if you do so happen to combine these cards based on chance, then yes, this is going to help you increase your DPS output. If not, I wouldn't really recommend you to combine them at all. The base level 1-star card is generally useful for most things, because as you can see here, 200% reality damage. If you upgrade it once, it's only 300%. There is a loss of 100% because you needed 2 actions to combine the cards. The first is to move the card and the second is to use it. Then finally, at 3 stars, the damage goes up to 500%, which is pretty insane, but it's still not as good as just 4 copies of the level 1 card. And of course, Nasty Wound. This is a debuff where the enemy's healing taken is reduced by 50%, so this is really good against healing comps. I say healing comps as if there's PvP in this game, but there's no PvP, so it's good against enemies with heals. One more thing I should add about this skill is because its base form is a debuffing skill, that means that it is completely immune to disarm effects. So if the enemies disarm you, you can always still use Vigor Handbag. You may not be able to use your attacking skills, but Vigor Handbag is completely usable. And next, we have a second skill over here. This is Vintage Handfan. Now, mass attack, HP minus current HP times 10%. I'm not sure why this is worded this way, but it is exactly the same as her first skill, which is the caster suffers current HP minus 10%. So I'm not super sure why the wording is such, but it works exactly the same. So depending on your current HP, whenever you use this skill, it's going to cut off 10% of whatever HP that you have right now. And this area attack only damages 2 enemies and not a whole team. Now, very similar to her first skill, this skill's damage output also increases according to the card level, but it doesn't increase in any other aspect. So, like I said, because the growth of the DPS over here is not exponential and is not even linear, it might not make sense for you to combine this unless you manage to combine it by sheer chance, or it really depends on the situation, right? But for the most part, I don't think it really matters that much to combine them, because at the end of the day, you're still going to gain the same amount of Moxie just by using separate cards. Now, let's move on with her ultimate. So you notice that she loses a lot of HP by using all of her skills. But this is where her ultimate changes the field for you. So Anecdotes in Exeter, mass attack that damages every single enemy, deals 300% reality damage to all enemies, and this attack enjoys a leech rate of 50%. So what that means is every single one of the damage that you deal is going to heal you by 50% of the damage that you have done. So if you did 2000 damage, you're going to heal yourself for 1000 HP. This skill is extremely powerful, and if you use it up against multiple enemies, this can easily top you off to 100% HP again, and that's where she cycles really well. Now, if you thought this is all, this is not all in terms of her sustain. So if you take a look at her insight, so insight 1 is kind of like where she shines a lot, but you can also push it to the fullest by going all the way to insight 3. So this is what insight 1 does. Gains immunity to bleed, corrode, and poison statuses. And when a round starts, the caster gains 1 stack of blood of longevity. Damage dealt plus 3% and damage heal plus 3% stacks up to 5 times. Now, damage dealt, everyone understand what this means, but what about damage heal? Let's find out. So as you can see on the screen, what damage heal really is whenever you receive damage, you will heal yourself at the start of the next turn, and it's extremely important that you understand what the start means. Because when a round starts, the caster also gains 1 stack of blood of longevity. So you notice that right here, I received a total of 642 damage, but I healed myself for 38 HP. So 38 divided by 642, that is actually about 6%. And 6% is not one stack of Blood of Longevity, which means she actually starts healing herself from the second turn moving on. So her damage heal actually ramps up from the start. It doesn't actually stay at one stack. You will essentially immediately benefit from 2 stacks of it. So it takes you about another 4 turns for you to fully stack this and heal yourself based on the damage that you receive in total. Now what makes this insight so good is that not only do you heal yourself when you receive damage from enemies, you also heal yourself when you receive damage from yourself. So you can see that I'm using one of my skills that chops off 10% of my HP, and then I can heal up to 15% at Insight 1 based on the damage that I have actually done to myself. Now this means 2 things, right? Number 1, this means that you're able to sustain yourself, but number 2, it also means that you using your offensive skills a little bit later on in the fight would be a little bit more beneficial, because that is the part where you start to chop off your own HP when dealing damage, and at the same time you're going to benefit a lot from the 15% damage healing that this insight provides you. So it might make more sense for you to not use her to attack at the start if you're a little bit worried about your sustainability, right? You don't want to chop off too much of your HP when you're not able to damage heal that effectively at the start. Now the thing is, when you reach Insight 3, this actually boosts her by a great amount. So now, not only are your Blood of Longevity stacks giving you more stuff per stack from 3% to 5%, furthermore, at 5 stacks of Blood of Longevity, this effect transforms into Blood of Immortality. So you're still going to retain the maximum damage bonus of 25%, damage heal by 25%, and you're also immune to status downs. You cannot have your damage reduced, which means your damage is always going to be really good, really strong. So I think her kit is very well in tune with itself. All of her skills work really well together, the synergy is perfect, and that makes her a really, really strong character in my opinion. Oh, and one more thing. Having damage mitigation actually does not protect you from the HP loss by using your skills. So don't think that using Sonata is actually going to prevent you from taking all that damage. It is not going to be the case. It's only going to protect you from incoming DPS from your enemies. Now, finishing off this character, let's take a look at her portrays, which is essentially whenever you get dupes of her, what happens, right? At base level, you're not going to benefit from any of these at all, but if you get one extra copy of her, Anecdotes in Exeter, which is her ultimate attack, the effect changes to deals 350% reality damage, which means she actually gains 50% multiply over here, so that she deals a little bit more reality damage. And at P2, Vigor Handbag's effect changes to at 1, 2, 3 stars, deals increased damage. That's about it, right? So you increase about 10% across the board. And at P3, you increase the damage of your second skill, which is Vintage Handfan. And at P4, your ultimate's leech rate increases from 50% to 60%, which in my opinion is really quite unnecessary. 50% leech rate is already insanely strong. Unless you're up against 1 or 2 enemies, then yes, you need more leech rate. And finally at P5, her ultimate increases DPS further by another 50% to 400%. So it's just a lot of extra DPS, but that's basically it. So I don't think having multiple portrays is that useful for her. It's probably not super important unless you really need the extra DPS. Now, I can't talk too much about Psychubes right now, but what I can say is giving her extra lifesteal or other ways for her to replenish her own HP is probably going to be optimal, if not using something like Venom over here. Damage bonus plus 3%. Yeah, it goes all the way up to, I think, plus 9%, which I think is kind of good because whenever she deals damage with her ultimate, she's going to heal herself based on the damage output. So that's still kind of nice, right? But I think for the most part, having a little bit of lifesteal or at least healing herself whenever you kill enemies, that's going to be the best. So keep an eye out on Psychubes that do these effects. Now, obviously, she is not without weaknesses, and this is where her allies come into play. So the choice of her allies are extremely important because she's constantly losing HP for herself, and before you know it, right, in order for you to charge 5 Moxie, assuming that you're not just moving cards around, you're actually using active skills, that's actually going to chop off a lot of HP. In fact, just doing some quick math over here, you can see on the screen, by using 5 skills, you're actually going to lower your HP down to below 60%. That is dangerous levels before you can use your ultimate. So before that happens, you kind of want to protect her with the right allies. So some of the allies that I'm thinking of, number 1, you can either use An Li, who is a 6-star character. So Lily Nectar increases the damage dealt by her allies and reduces the damage taken by 30% for all allies. So this is going to protect Eternity for quite a little bit, especially making sure that she stays alive and she don't take extra DPS that puts her down to dangerous levels, because we are only talking about herself using active skills dropping her HP down to 60%. We're not even talking about the enemies attacking her as well, which could further reduce her HP down to close to 0%. Now, another more free-to-play option is obviously Sonato. Sonato is one of the better support characters out there. So I'm talking about her buff here, Exaltation. Very similar to An Li, increase damage dealt by your allies by 25% and reduce the damage taken by 25%, which lasts for 3 rounds. So it lasts a little bit longer than An Li, but slightly weaker. Another really good option as a 6-star character is Medicine Pocket, because she has a healing skill which heals a lot of HP, essentially the caster's attack times 200%, and gives 1 stack of sturdiness, which is the most important part for all allies. So this sturdiness actually reduces the incoming damage that you receive by 20%. But also another very important character that I think is rather free to play and very useful with Eternity is going to be Tenant because of a Bouquet of Galaxy. So mass buff gives all allies a shield based on the caster's attack for 1 round and damage taken minus 20% while the shield is active. So this is going to further protect Eternity, and I think she's actually one of the better choices out there. Not just because of this, but because of her ultimate as well, where she actually applies Diamond Bullet, which reduces the reality defense of the target, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure why it's not stated over here. And another character that works really well with her, it has to be the Alien T. Okay, so let's take a look at why this is the case. He has this effect over here. He has this skill, self-counter, enters taunt, and damage taken minus 40% for 1 turn, for 1 round at least. And of course, this goes all the way up to 3 rounds, which is really, really impactful. Now, this just simply distracts the enemies and forces them to attack you, which means you're essentially protecting Eternity from any incoming DPS, and that is going to help her with her survivability. So let's take a look at this team, for example, right? Okay, so we are going to use this tanky skill over here that's going to lure the enemies to attack us. We're going to buff up at the start, like so, and we're just going to drop an AoE attack using Eternity here. So you kind of only need to have Eternity to attack, or like the sole DPS in your team. If you do not have like multiple DPS, is like completely fine, I think, because her DPS output is just very, very high. Right, there you go, see? So the alien, he's tanking a little bit, but the problem with his tank is that he only truly protects from single target DPS. If the enemies use AoE DPS, there is still a chance that she might get hit. So yeah, do take note of that, right? Okay, so we're gonna do this. We are going to disarm, and I think we are just gonna single target this, and I think he should die afterwards, right? Something like that. Good disarm and good kill. Nice. Okay, we're gonna finish these guys off with an AoE attack, and that means because they're gonna die, right, we are just gonna take the turn to move our cards around because we're gonna prepare ourselves for wave 2. So something like that, we can just move it like that and end the turn. Very nice. Okay, now single target over here. This is a problem because we are primarily focused on AoE DPS, so even my ultimate itself is an AoE DPS. But because there is only one enemy here, this is not going to allow us to heal up that much. So anyway, let's take a look. So we're going to counter at the start, we're going to drop a buff, and we're going to do a single target DPS, and we're going to use our ultimate on our next round.
So long lives this, and this gives power to thee.
Pretty good DPS, 2k. Very nice. And as you can see, right, we heal ourselves for about 45 HP, which is essentially based on the damage that we received when we hurt ourselves when using our skill. Okay, so let's finish this off. We are going to use our alien here to control the enemy, right? So we're going to use it like that. And then we're going to use our ultimate afterwards. We still have the buff from our Sonato here. So drop another DPS and maybe drop another DPS, something like that. This should be enough to wipe out the boss, I think. Right, disarm and silence, and now we nuke. Very nice. There you go. Completely destroyed, dude. So you only need one single DPS. Eternity, that's pretty much all you need. The rest of your characters should be there to support her in terms of protecting her, healing her, or just taunting, right? Those are really good options. Or maybe just like straight up disarm. So I have 2 characters over here who can disarm. Number 1, I have the alien for disarming. Number 2, I have Sonato for her disarming as well. Although we only got to see it 1 time. Alright, so anyway, that's it for this video covering Eternity. Let me know your thoughts about this character down in the comment section below. I am super excited about using her. I enjoy everything about her. From her left kit to her right kit, everything is perfect. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Reverse 1999 content. Now with that said, this has been Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.